All right. We finished with environmental. I'm just going to the next slide. Okay. We were doing this topic yesterday, analyzing companies' internal environment. I just give you a brief idea. The tools to conduct internal analysis. I think we stopped here yesterday. So SWOT is a common tool. SWOT analysis. Conducting a SWOT analysis is easily the most common approach to completing an internal analysis. So SWOT is one of the main important tool to conduct an internal analysis. Now, as we all know, because we have been repeated SWOT right from day one, strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats. So the internal component of a SWOT analysis specifically looks at your organization strengths and weakness. So these are the two internal factors like within the organization where we need to take care. Then how to conduct? Now, we are talking about internal appraisal. We are talking about the factors which are necessary for the internal appraisal or the internal analysis. But how do we conduct it? First, we create a business strategy. Creating a business strategy requires research into and the assessment of internal and external factors that impact the company. So first of all, we are doing a research. We are doing a research and we are checking the internal and external factors which will affect the company. Specifically, an internal analysis can help business establish areas for growth and competitive advantage. So, what is the use of this internal analysis? The use of this internal analysis is it will help the company to grow and have a competitive advantage. As we spoke, that we have got many competitors in the external environment. So, how we are going to be the best and how our organization is going to be different from the organization. That is a competitive edge. Now, conducting internal analysis requires extensive knowledge, means we need to have an in-depth knowledge of the interworkings of the company. Internally, how the companies are working, how the departments within the company correlate themselves, and how they work hand in hand. Now, this is an article. We explain what an internal analysis is and why it is important and how to perform. Now, let's see. A few of the most common example of internal analysis framework is gap analysis. A gap analysis identifies a gap between a business goal and the current state of operations. Like, where are we now presently? Where is the company, and how are we functioning in the present scenario, and what are the business goals we need to achieve? That means how far is the business goal from the current state of operations. That is called as a gap analysis. Companies use gap analysis when they need to identify abuse potential, when they need to identify the weaknesses, because more the weakness, more is the gap. Then strategy evaluation. A strategy evaluation is an ongoing internal assessment tool used at regular intervals to establish if a company is meeting its objectives as outlined in the business strategy or plan. Right? Strategy evaluation. I told you we are doing strategy planning, then we are doing formulation of strategy, and then we do strategy evaluation. Means, is a strategy really working? Are we on the right path? So, is the strategy meeting its objectives? Then OCAT. And OCAT means Organizational Capacity Assessment Tool, assesses the internal performance in a variety of specific dimensions. Companies can use the OCAT to establish the specific areas of strength or growth. Now this OCAT is, I would encourage you all to read this McKinsey 7S framework, which even I will be taking. The 7S are strategy, structure, systems, shared values, skills, style, and staff. The McKinsey 7S system, or the McKinsey 7S framework, ensures that business aligns these 7 elements for maximum success. That means there is a proper alignment of these 7 S's, or you can say the 7 factors, and they align in a direction where maximum objectives can be attained or maximum growth of a company can attain. Then we have core competency analysis. The core competencies analysis identifies the unique combination of qualities, right, that separates the business from the competitors. Like, what is your core competency? Like you are a finance person or you are a business analysis person. So in order to get a job, what other skill sets do we need, or what are the core competencies we have? When you face the interviews after 6 months, they will ask a question, why do we need to hire you? So when they are going to ask you, that means the core competency comes into picture. The core competencies analysis identifies the unique combination of qualities that separates the business from the competitors. It's best used when determining ways to improve business operations over a direct competitor. Then again, SWOT analysis. We always come across SWOT every now and then. Strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats. This type of analysis helps to give companies a broad view of the internal function. SWOT analysis are ideal for evaluating the full range of companies' abilities. So SWOT tells us about the abilities of the people of the company. Okay. Then we have got video analysis. Now, what is video analysis? A video, now VRIO stands for valuable, rare, inimitable, and organized. Analysis help organize business resources. All right. Now we have business resources. Now we need to organize. That means we need to make use of the optimum resources, and where the resources are required, we need to channelize the resources there. So it helps to assess and categorize companies' resources. So where the resources are required, there the resources have to be made available. Okay. Now, continuation of the previous slide. Now, what is the process? We saw the types of analysis. Now, let's see what is the process. The process of internal environment analysis consists of vision, mission, goals, and strategy. The first step of internal analysis is to analyze the organization's vision, mission, goals, and strategies. A clear analysis or definition of these components will help us to achieve the resource requirement. See, in the beginning, we spoke about two main important factors. One is the resource and the other is capabilities. So the first step will help us to assess what resources we have and how can we distribute the resource and what maximum result can we get from this resource. Resource requirement of an organization. Then the strength and weakness analysis in the second stage. The organization's capability and the resources are analyzed to identify, right, the strengths and weaknesses. Now, once the strengths and weaknesses are identified, what do they tell us? Strengths are supportive of goal achievement, where weaknesses are deficiencies. Strength will always support the goals. But where weaknesses, they are a deficiency, they will try to hamper our goal. So we need to work on the weaknesses. Again, I repeat, strength and weaknesses constitute the internal environment of the company. Then we have addition of identification of unique resources. After the identification, the firm's strengths and weaknesses, the unique resources of the organization are identified and analyzed. Now, the resources we have, okay? Now, we have to identify, we have to study what type of resources we have. Do we have enough of money? Do we have enough of manpower, machinery, raw material? And how these resources need to be channelized. These resources that are valuable, difficult to imitate, and non-substitutable and rare. Now, these resources are valuable in the first place, right? We cannot, get these resources immediately. There is a waiting period. And then nothing can substitute this resource. For example, if you have to go for your SIP, you need petrol in your two-wheeler. You cannot put water in your two-wheeler, right? Because petrol becomes at that time non-substitutable good for you. Then identification of core competencies. See, certain things are repeated again and again, but you need to keep those terminologies in mind. In the fourth step of internal environment analysis, the core competencies of the organization are identified. Core competencies is something that the organization can do exceedingly well. That means in case of manpower, I will say right person at the right time and at the right place. Then locate strategic advantage. Locate strategic advantage in the final stage. The strategic advantage of the organization is located. Now, strategic advantage is the result of match between core competency and match between market conditions. So, do your core competencies go according to the market conditions? For example, we keep on telling you, okay, now students, you're running SIPs, what is required in the market to get a job? That means what we are doing, we are matching your core competencies according to the market conditions. So we tell you, okay, finance students, see that you know Tally, GST, and Excel, advanced Excel. It is a need of time. So you need to have this core competency in order to be in the job market. Locating strategic advantage helps an organization achieve its strategic goals. All right. Then we have something called as a value chain analysis. Value chain analysis. If you see in your book, we have techniques used for corporate analysis, that is the methods of the environmental analysis. Now we have the value chain analysis. Now, value chain analysis is an effective tool to understand how an organization generates value for its customers. Okay, before I forget, students, I would tell you that today we have a half day. We are working at 2 o'clock. So if you have any work in the college pertaining to your SIPs and all, see that you come before 2. Value chain analysis is an effective tool to understand how an organization generates values for its customers from different activities. All right, value generation, very important. A business may appear to be a series of interconnected tasks. Yes. Why is a business an interconnected task? Because many departments, many functional heads are into an organization. And all these departments and all these activities are interrelated with each other. They are interconnected with each other. And as they interconnected, every department or every functionality will add a value addition to the product for the customers. For example, If we visit, say, Lay's, we visit Pepsi, we will say there are some people who are literally doing the bottle washing. Some people are manufacturing the labels, they're taking care of the packaging and the labeling department. Some are really in the operations. They see that, you know, the product is good, quality testing is done, then the bottles are washed. The bottles are washed. When the Pepsi is filled into the bottles, again they go for a quality check. So what is doing at every line, at every assembly line, or at every functional head, we are adding value to the product. So value chain analysis looks at the various operations, initiatives, and activities that the business uses to produce the value for its customers. All right. So what will happen? This value chain analysis will also help us for um, for analyzing the internal activities and providing value to the product at every stage. Then we have the functional approach. A number of functions are carried out in the organization. The functional approach of internal analysis attempts to understand the contribution of different functional units such as R&D, research and development, right? Every now and then research is carried out because we need to give value to the product. A customer, if you look at the mindset of the customer will always want some newness in the product. So how does the newness come? It does not come all of a sudden. There is an R&D team which is working on value addition to the product. Production and operations, marketing, financial and human resources towards the organization performances. Then we have the resource to competitive advantage. All right, now let's see what are the resources. Resources can be a base for building a competitive advantage. The competitive advantage pyramid reflects how the resources are a source. Let me see if I got the pyramid. Not no worries. The competitive advantage pyramid reflects how the resources are a source to achieve the competitive advantage. Now, I could not draw the pyramid. I don't. Anyway, the pyramid includes from bottom to top company resources, competitive capabilities, core and distinctive capabilities. Internal analysis, when we started students, we were highly talking about resources and capabilities, strategic assets, and finally, the competitive advantage. Why our products are better than the other company's product. As I gave you a very good example of cosmetics. Why Lakme is better than Nykaa. Why Nykaa is better than Blue Heaven. Why L'Oreal is the best. What competitive advantage or what competitive edge does Lakme have over the other cosmetics? Or I can say, what competitive advantage Maruti Suzuki car would have over Nissan car, right? So these are competitive advantages because there is more value to the product. Then we have resource-based views. The resource view based on strategy states that the competitive advantage of an organization is explained by its distinctiveness of its capabilities. What capability does an organization have comparatively to its competitor? It states that the internal resources are more important for a firm than an external. Okay, now see, I'm just making this statement. In achieving and sustaining the competitive advantage. So what does the statement say? The internal resources are more important for a firm than an external factor or external resource. I write here resource so that you understand. Than an external resource in achieving and sustaining a competitive advantage. By this view, organizational performance is primarily determined by its internal resources, which are physical, human, and organizational resource. So these factors, these internal factors will play a very important role in sustaining the competitive edge or advantage. Then we have benchmarking. Benchmarking is the continuous process of measuring products and service. I always tell you, okay, now A plus, getting an A plus in strategic management happens to be a benchmark. That means all of us should try to get an A plus. It's a minimum A plus. That is our benchmark. Up and above O grade, that is outstanding grade. So what is a benchmark? Yes, we should get A plus. It is the continuous process of measuring products, service, practice against the toughest competitions or toughest competitors or industry leaders. It helps to know what products, techniques, and practices the competitors are employing and attempts to bridge the gap between their own organizational performance with the competitors. All right. Yes. 1 minute, huh? Hmm. Now, what is the importance of internal environment analysis? Now, I've just explained you benchmarking in short, okay? I'm going to explain you at length. Benchmarking is very important. I have just explained you in short. Next lecture, the process of benchmarking, which is used for a comparative analysis, will be done in detail. Importance of internal environment analysis. It helps to identify the strengths. The first importance of internal analysis we may consider is that it helps to identify the relative strengths of the organization. The organization's strengths may be in terms of resource availability. What are the resources? Resources can be, what do you say, land, capital, machinery, manpower, resource availability, innovation, skilled manpower, uniqueness, and the brand. Now, every company has some uniqueness, means something different. In addition to the identification, it also helps to use the strengths to exploit opportunities and accomplishment of goals. Then it helps to identify weaknesses. Similar to the strength, it also identifies the weaknesses of the organization, which are weaknesses as compared to its competitors. So we need to tap our weaknesses because weaknesses can be a deficient in achieving our goals. So what are we doing? We are identifying the weaknesses of the organization and are weak compared to the competitors. Once the weaknesses are identified, it further prepares the organization to reduce such weakening factors and mitigate. Mitigate means tackle external environment threats. It helps to identify unique resources. Now, it helps us to identify the unique resources means it to be in the competitive market. An organization needs to have unique resources. Means what? The resource in a such a way that it makes us different from the competitors. Can you give an example of a unique resource we have? The unique resources are valuable, inimitable, rare, and difficult to substitute. They help firms to develop core competencies that leads the organization towards competitive advantage. So unique resources, okay, see how the chain reaction goes. We have unique resources and they help us to develop the core competencies and that will help us to have a competitive edge or a competitive advantage over the other competitors. Then identifying core competency. Along with the identification of unique resources, internal environment analysis also helps to identify and develop core competencies. A competency is that in which the firm is well, and the core competency is the sum. See, core competencies is the sum of the whole organization's exceedingly doing well. So our organization is doing well. Why? Because of the core competencies. Then what core competencies do we have? That we need to summarize. They are the most important sources of competitive advantage. They reside in the functional areas of production, marketing, and human resource. Then we have strategy formulation. Understanding every aspect of the organization makes the manager aware of any mistakes. Makes the manager aware of capability, competencies, unique resources, strength, weakness, and helps the manager to formulate effective strategies. So these are the points which help us to formulate a strategy. Then I will just conclude certain things in this chapter I need to take in detail, which I'll be taking in the next slide. So I'm just concluding about this PowerPoint presentation. Hence, the internal environment analysis is all about assessing the internal capability of an organization and aiming to enhance the capability of functional units and promote the overall organizational effectiveness. What does it mean? We are assessing the capabilities and the resources so that organizational goals are achieved. Okay, now, one minute. Now, factors affecting corporate analysis or the internal environment. Okay, what are they? We have trends of results, sources of profits, risk, manufacturing activities, streamlining of resources, organization and management resources, financial resources, and corporate capabilities. Now let's see. Then we are continuing with the second slide. We have system, utilization of resources, technological and trained staff, organizational climate and culture, shift in the organizational leadership. Now I made a small diagram. Okay. What does it tell us? It tells us that structuring corporate analysis. How can the structuring of the corporate analysis is done? Okay, first of all, the previous slide. Please let me tell you something about the previous slide. Trends of results. Factors affecting corporate analysis. The first point is trend of results. Now, the organization should also be in the capacity to consider the outcomes and the past trends. Past trends means what? Okay, this has happened in the past. What can be the outcomes in the future, right? So before we do the analysis of the internal environment, the organization should consider the outcomes. Now, there can be various types of trends. What are they? We can have sales, then we can have cost, we can also study the environment, advertisement cost. Then after doing all this, the organization also needs to study the profit which the organization is going to gain. These trends will also help to tell us about the company strategy and whether the formulated strategy is giving us the right results. Now, the next point is sources of profits. Sources of profits. Like once we analyze the internal environment, once we know the resources and the capabilities, right, then we can set our targets. We can know from which source an organization will get maximum profits, that is the future context, or from which source currently the organization is gaining more profits. Now, these sources are based on the market research, right? The marketeers will do a market research and they will tell us. Then the third factor is the risk factor. Now, what is risk? Every organization will face some of the other type of risk. So, when we are studying the internal environment of the organization, we need to keep in mind what can be the risk, what risk we can face, right, due to the internal and external environment, and how we can tackle that risk. These factors can be small customer base, or we are having lots of dependence on any one of the suppliers, and we do not have an alternate market for the product, and sometimes a technological risk also. So what happens, the risk factors is like what are the potential risks we can face due to an internal and external factors. Then what can be those factors? We have a very small customer base, we have limited suppliers, and we do not have a alternate market for the products. Then the next is manufacturing manufacturing activity. Manufacturing activity, whenever we think about manufacturing activity, the first thing a manager will think is of cost reduction. Now, cost reduction in terms of production cost, and then proper utilization of the resources. As I said, resources can be plant, machinery, labor, raw materials, and the latest technology. Then we have streamlining of resources. Streamlining of resources, at times it is necessary for the strategist or the top management to monitor the internal resources and streamline the resources if required. Such resources are needed to be rationalized, rationalized in the sense they are required to give certain importance. So how are these importance giving? Okay, so suppose the raw material is coming at the depots, at the warehouses, right? Then we need to think about the relocation of facilities. From the depot, the raw material has to be taken somewhere else. In that transit, the raw material should not get damaged. And plants and buildings, because plants and buildings of an organization are going to be stationary. Warehouses will be where there is availability of raw materials, the source of raw materials. And then we are keeping it in the warehouse and then we are transporting it. But even in this transit, you have to take care that the raw material is not damaged. Next is we have the organization and management of resources. Or you have organization and management of resources. I can also put okay. Now, when we are looking at this aspect, organization and management resources, we also need to study the organizational structure, and we also need to understand the capabilities of the manager. What is happening? Only getting manpower and getting other resources is not sufficient. We need to have a healthy labor relations. We need to have healthy relations, because any strategy you finalize has to be people-centric, keeping people in the center. So we need to have good relations. Good relations will always help to increase the productivity. And then trade unions plays a very important aspect. Trade unions. Trade unions work as an intermediate between the laborers, between the workers and the top management. So having good relations with the trade unions in the long run will not hamper, will not affect the productivity because nobody will go on a strike, nobody will have a lockdown. Learn and encourage the employees. So you have to also encourage the employees. You also need to motivate the employees. Then we have financial resources. Now, what is financial resources trying to tell us? Any organization needs to have its finances in place. They need to have a constant flow of finance, a constant flow of cash. Moreover, the organization should have its reserves for better strategic planning. Then corporate capabilities. Corporate capabilities. The firm should also have, or the organization should aim at creating a balance. All right. Creating a balance, creating a harmony between different departments and functions. Because every department and every person working in that department has got his or her capabilities. All right. So the capabilities of all the people in the organization should be streamlined. They should work in harmony and they should have a uniform direction. They should not go here and there. They should have a uniform direction in order to fulfill the organizational goals and objectives. Then we have financial resources, corporate capabilities. The next slide tells us about the systems. Now, what are systems here? Okay, we have systems of communication. Now, if I am talking to the top management, I need to have a formal way of communication. All right. But if I come to a lower level of management or if I come to a contract labor, I need to have my informal way of communication because he understands that language. So, an organization should analyze the formal and the informal way of communication so that a proper cascade, a proper way of communication is established. Because if there is going to be no communication, there's going to be no sharing of information. And no sharing of information, that means it affects the productivity. Then we have utilization of resources. Again, two parameters, resources and capabilities. Now, how can this utilization of resources be done? There have to be optimum utilization of the resources among all the products. Now, see, the organization, for example, Pepsi is not only making a soft drink, right? It is into many other things, diet, different, what you say, products under Pepsi head. Then it has got Lay's, then Lay's has got different flavors, right? So under one head, we are having many products. We are having many competing products within the organization itself. So resource allocation has to be done very precisely. Now, what will be the resource allocation in this case? It can be tangible resources, like it can be money, it can be machinery, as intangible resources can be, the talent, the technical skills of the person, and the technical know-how of the person. So when we talk about resources, the utilization of the resources can be of both tangible and intangible assets. You are following what I'm trying to tell you? Yes? Yes? I am only talking. Nobody's answering today. Why? Everybody is in the Gauri Ganpati mode. Students? Anybody answering? Anybody answering? Okay. Komal, Chandrakant, Shantanu. then Prithvi, Shreyas, Darshan, Kiran, Abhishek, Tejal, Nishi, Lokik, Mayur, Rupali. Nobody's answering. Yes? At least you all are understanding. Please answer. Okay. Next is shift in the organizational leadership. Now, what happens? All of a sudden, there is a change in leadership, right? What will happen? Change in leadership will affect the organizational culture, and it will create conflict, and the efficiency of the system or the people will go down. So, when there is a shift in organizational leadership, there is a reorientation of everything, because again we need to reset the culture of the organization. All right. Then structuring the corporate analysis. Now, structuring the corporate analysis, it can be done in two ways. One is called as an OCP, Organizational Capability Profile, and the other one is SAP, Strategic Advantages Profile. Now, let's see first what is an OCP. Okay, what is an OCP? Now, in any organization, we always need to improve the performance, right? Improve the performance. So what we do is, in order to improve the performance, the strategist will do a SWOT analysis. First point is we'll do a SWOT analysis. Then we will look at the resources and the capabilities to fulfill the objectives. Means are the resources and capabilities aligned with the objectives? Now these factors provide a competitive edge. Competitive edge means how are we better than the other organization? So there are basically two major profiles. One is the OCP and other is the SAP. Now let's see what is an OCP. Now once the threats and the opportunities are identified, then we do an OCP, that is Organizational Capability Profile, which helps us to identify the organizational strength and weaknesses in key result areas, right? Suppose if you have manpower planning. Now, what are the strengths and weaknesses of manpower planning, right? Why people are leaving the organization. So this becomes a key result areas where strategists have to pay attention. The key result areas are those factors which would help us to fulfill the organizational goals. Now just see. An organizational capability profile describes the skills, knowledge, and resources that enables your company to provide quality products or services to the customers. The profile provides useful background information for your marketing and corporate communication. The 6 organizational capabilities are, okay, see, in short, I have identified 6 critical interdepartment organizational capabilities, which are learning, change, innovation, collaboration, agility, and engagement. So we are going to work on these capabilities. All right. So what is an objective? What is the reason behind doing this OCP? It will help us to understand the market position of the organization as compared to the competitors. Secondly, it will help us to allocate our resources properly. Then what happens is whenever we are doing a SWOT analysis and we know the key result areas, we need to work it out. How we are going to work it out? We can have a positive rating for strengths and a negative rating for weaknesses. So we have, I will show you the table in the next lecture regarding the OCP table. Now here are some actions you can take to assess and cultivate the organizational capabilities. What are they? Engage leadership first, right? Secondly, define and list your organizational capabilities. Third is conduct an organizational capabilities assessment. That means assessment, I told you, if it is a strength, you'll give a positive rating. If it is a weakness, you'll give a negative rating. Understand the capability gap. Means where are we now and what is the market going on? So when I talk about capability gap, that is gap analysis. Prioritize and create an action plan. Okay, if these are our developing areas, right, we need to work on those. How are we going to work? How are we going to improve? Thirdly, track progress and follow up. Like whatever we are doing now, whatever measures we are taking for this gap analysis, whatever the steps we are taking in action plan, are they really working? Are they really working? So we need to evaluate that performance. Now, I've given you some examples. Some examples are, right, more examples. Organizational culture, leadership performance, strategic unity, innovation, agility, talent, and customer connectivity. So these are the capabilities. If we don't have in the organization, we need to develop in order to have a competitive edge. Now let's see, I have put, see here, I've just taken this organizational capabilities and strategy and results. All are interlinked. Under organizational capabilities, we have culture, leadership, performance, strategic unity. Under strategy, excuse me, under strategy, we have clear strategy, formulation and understanding, strategy implementation, and change readiness. See, this change readiness is very important, right? All of us, whoever is doing a management course, need to be a change agent. We should welcome change. Then what results we'll get? Gaining competitive advantage, driving business performance, and adapting to the change. So this is the impact of impact of organizational capabilities. Okay. Now, what are the types? We just talk about organizational capabilities, but what are the types? One moment. In order to focus on building organizational capabilities, it is useful to understand the big picture of what they are, right? First of all, you understand the organization. Then, definitions of organizational capabilities vary from organization to organization. As there are multiple capabilities, Now you see the organizational capacity or capability of Reliance Industry might be different than those of, say, Hindalco, or might be different than Maruti Suzuki, for the simple reason they have got a different product. Or if I say an organizational capacity of Bapco, have you heard about Bapco? Right? Bapco is the biggest oil refinery in the world. It is in Bahrain. The organizational capacity of Bapco may be different from POSCO. Now, POSCO is a steel industry in Korea, right? Now, organizational capacities are different because the product is different. And organizational capacity of a person selling a vada pav on a hand cart may be different from Joshi Vadewale. Product is the same, but working at a different level. Then operational capabilities. These attributes reflect a company's ability to align skills, routines, and processes to successfully operate in specific markets and meets its stakeholders' requirements. Operational capabilities materialize gradually over time according to the specific characteristics of each business. All right, of each business. Then what comes next is the operational capabilities a little bit in detail. These attributes or these factors reflect a company's ability to align skills. All right. Align skills means what? Placing the right person in the right department. So there is no misfit. An HR person going in the finance, it is not going to work. Routines and processes to successfully operate in specific markets and meet a stakeholders' requirement. Right? Stakeholders, we have seen in the first chapter. Very important. They are a part of the organization. They are in the decision-making process. The decision can affect even in the company. For example, you know, Shapurji Pestinji company, they're a big infrastructures company, right? They have 18% stakes in the Tata Group. So definitely, Mr. Shapurji's decision is going to affect the organization. So he's a very big stakeholder. Operational capabilities materialize gradually over time according to the specific characters of each business. As I told you, we are running a business, but everybody has got a different product. They often blend into the background, so they are less obvious and more difficult to imitate. So what happens is operational capabilities now they gel with their work. So it becomes difficult for them to replace, right? They're working at the behind the curtain. So you operational capabilities, it becomes difficult for us to replace all of a sudden. Hence, they can be a competitive advantage. Now let's see, I'm giving you an example of a restaurant, okay? Now, let's use a restaurant as an example of operational capabilities. What happens in a restaurant? All right. Whatever training chefs have needs to be customized to a specific restaurant type of menu. For example, I don't know how many of you all go to Vaishali, right? Vaishali. Have you all heard about Vaishali? The taste of sambar and chutney in Vaishali has not changed in years. So, what has happened? The masalas and whatever ingredients are used, they have been customized, right? Then the chef will decide the type of menu, price, and available ingredients. The recipes used may be very similar to other restaurants, right? Sambar is sambar, whether you eat in Vaishali or whether you eat somewhere in a small restaurant in Vadgaon or Kathraj, sambar is sambar, but every sambar has got its unique taste, and every chef or every cook has got the unique processing for making certain dishes. It is developed over time and passed on to new chefs. The capacity to leverage resources. Leverage means to utilize resources, and the chef skills will reflect the restaurant's cooking style and character to its customers. So the way the chef is making the sambar in Vaishali is reflecting the uniqueness. And all people talk, or the sambar, the taste of sambar in Vaishali has not changed in ages because it is the chef's skills. The taste of the sambar tells us about the skills of the chef, and he's being passed on to the other cooks as well. So that is operational capabilities. All right. Then we have sorry, what did this title come here? Excuse me for this slide. Something is wrong. Okay. They are connected to strategy and vision, strategic capabilities, and indicate how well the organization handles its business environment and sets itself apart. Sets itself apart means what we are going to have the competitive edge. Strategic capabilities are what takes an idea to a successful reality. For example, a manufacturing company wants to have more products available for growing customer base. Okay, customer base is increasing. The company must evaluate which which products have to be made more and how they are supposed to distribute it among the customers. Okay, now when they are going to make much product, when they're going to increase the manufacturing of the product, they have to begin from, okay, do the suppliers have enough of raw material, right? Are the shipping companies able to handle an increase in products? If you're going to import raw materials, then the company's capability to execute the strategy will ensure that the process does not get bogged down. Bogged down, it does not. Bog means stop. Are you getting it? So if we have to increase the product, if the customer demand is more. Now see, again, when we talk about this, we go to the demand and supply. So does the suppliers have this product, or do the suppliers have the raw material? Have we to give raw material from outside? Is the shipping companies in a position to get all these raw materials on time? And does the company have the capability to work on this strategy and see that the production or the process does not stop? Is it clear? Is it clear? I'm stopping the class now. All right. Today we have a half day. So if you have any queries, I request you to come before 2 o'clock. Is it clear? Students, am I clear? At least say yes, no, maybe, may not. Or yes. Okay. Thank you for attending the class and have a nice day ahead. Bye. Thank you.